were to get together, what would you expect me to pay for in the relationship?
Going out to eat, and then just little things. And eventually, if we're going to live together and all that, I'd expect you to take on more responsibility.
I want to pause this really quickly because there's something that we're going to be aiming at for this video in particular, which is going to be about transactional things. Now, of course, they didn't get too deep into what a man should provide, but obviously this is one of the most common answers you hear from anybody who talks about modern dating or whatever that they say is always something to provide within responsibilities and pay for things. But keep note of what's happening. Let's keep moving.
I'm covering rent, light, internet, groceries, your hair, nails, makeup, lashes, lipstick, shoes, clothes, everything.
You could tell that she's been through these conversations before. You should have seen the way she was just looking at how she was reacting to it. But let's keep going though.
Oh, why not? Can you do it?
Of course, but why should I?
Because you're a man.
So because I'm a man.
Everything that he was listing out and paying all these things for the lady, correct? Just because you're a man, and this is something I want men to know because it's deeper than just being a provider on a materialistic sense. There comes the leadership, the guidance, there comes the conversation, the way to teach her, how to speak life into her if she has lost certain ways, how to show her a different way into seeing a new light, especially if you're a man who understands how to lead. And you've done that for yourself. You've done a lot of inner work and you're still going to do inner work to go push forward, but you understand that you will be teaching her things deeper than what it is just to provide on the surface level. So what I want men to know is that you're not just the things that you can buy for her, right? Just because you're a man doesn't mean that you got to buy all these things and take care of those things. Usually women will do it themselves regardless. Of course, if that's your woman down the line, you can treat her to something very well, but this doesn't what really makes a man. But let's keep going.
And I'm expected to cover everything if I were to date you.
Right. And I'm a woman, right? And you'd expect me to put out, correct?
Now you can tell that there's about to be some tension going on between them because look at the way she's even talking about it itself, because men can provide and can pay for a lot of things, but this again doesn't mean you're a masculine man. Just because you can provide and pay for stuff financially, you can be a weak man but be able to financially do things. Now for her saying, and you expect me to put out, so this is how you know a lot in dating in the world is a lot more transactional than people may want to even think about or want to talk about, because it's always about what can I do for you, what do you bring for the table. Of course down the line you want to understand this, but it's never really about that. It's always about the connection, about who you are when I meet you, and it's never anything outside of that, because once you come to a reality of mine, it's going to be a whole different bag, because it's always what's underneath the surface rather than what we see. Because like she said, all of those equated for the buying stuff equated to her putting out in what's between her legs. And this is also how you know a reflection of how bad it is in dating, because women put their value to what's between their legs, and possibly because of what the men have told them and how they go about certain things. So it's interesting. Let's keep moving.
Absolutely.
You would expect to have relationships with me.
Absolutely.
So I'd expect something back, because I could at one point bear your children, and I would expect, if I'm going to have 9 months of pregnancy, to be able to have a husband who can take care of me.
Is this a new mindset?
Now pause, because there's nothing wrong with women wanting that security from a man who's going to, if you're going to have a child with a lady, make sure that you are well off and that you know exactly what you're getting yourself into, because there's a lot of men that's carelessly having children with no plan behind it. So I understand that part, but also just because you're the man and you're providing things don't mean that. Let's keep moving.
That you have, or did you always think this way?
It's fairly new. I think when I was younger, there were points where I was more okay with paying and things like that, and I just found that it really does not benefit you at the end of the day. You could pay and you could really give more, but it's not the best. If you think about it, the world was kind of built for men.
In what ways?
It's a patriarchy. I know that's everybody hates that word.
Do you think we'd still...
Pause really quickly, because to me when I hear that, I think of this as a way for women to capitalize on what they have. And we've talked about this on my end of my community, where we've spoken about when women capitalize on their beauty to get weak men or certain things like that. And it's not all women, but women do want a sense of their own independence in a way. That's why all that stuff that he equated to saying providing all this, she's saying, well, this is what's going to acquire. If you want me to put out, you got to buy things too. So this is an interesting, she said it's fairly new, and you can tell by the way her voice was shaking up a little bit. Let's keep moving up.
Have as much success as we are as a society if we were in a matriarchy?
I'm not sure, but I do think that we live in a patriarchal society and there is still so much misogyny in the world, and it's just the truth.
the biggest thing that I wanted to point out for this video is how transactional everything really is. And I want you guys to even look at yourself, look into your relationships, and what have you been making transactional? What have you been making, I need to require this to get you? It could be the 3 dates, it could be the spending some time and spending all this money with the fancy dinners just so I can have what's between your legs. And this is why there's a lot of conflict that happens within dating, because it's always based on a transactional situation. And that's why I believe don't date to marry, because if you date to marry, you have certain standards versus seeing who the person is in front of you. If you've been through too much and you're like, whatever works for you is gonna work for you. But I know if you want something fulfilling, you want something desirable, you want a good time with a good person, and you can financially be well off in the future, I promise you it's not about the transaction, it's about more meaningful conversation that you can have with the person right there. Because if not, it causes disruption within the harmony. And right now we're gonna focus on being harmonious with the same person who wants the same thing with us to be fulfilled in dating. This is an AllStar approved message.